Welcome to the channel Transformer Trains a Lot. Thank you for being here. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. Educate, empower, and enlighten is the goal. Educate out of victimhood and limiting beliefs. Empower into potential and purpose, and enlighten into our true nature. Now, speaking of victimhood and limiting beliefs, we're going to check out this video, conservative versus liberal lesbians. Lesbians! Shout out Jesse Lee Peterson. And I want to check out this video, Jubilee. Shout out Jubilee. They have some really good discourses on their channel. And I thought this video would be productive to review and weed out some limiting beliefs perhaps these women might have.
The LGBTQIA+ community has moved too far to the left.
I think what was once like a very loving and accepted community has pushed so far to the left that, we're seeing this massive pendulum swing that is coming back the other direction, that is going to put our entire community, unfortunately, in danger because it already has, because it has gone so far to the left rather than being a good, common sense middle ground, that now people who did not used to carry a prejudice against us or have an issue with our community are suddenly finding themselves to have prejudice against the LGBTQ community.
We have prejudice against ourselves.
For sure.
Even I'm developing the prejudice.
Like I can't stand lesbians now. Like there are people here, and I won't call that individual, but there are people here that I was friends with, that I literally went on vacations with, that have unfriended me, unfollowed me, just for simply standing up for young lesbians and gay men who are calling themselves all these other genders, or because I'm not for children transitioning, or just because I voted for Trump, and it's a shame because we don't want to be rowdy, we don't want to be a hive mind.
Right, a hive mind, which you just said. And you'll find that in any community, once you start going against the grain, similar to Black Americans, once you start going against the grain of the popular thinking, then they start to stigmatize you, and all of a sudden you're a black sheep just because you don't agree with what the majority of them believe and think. It's truly astounding.
Right? We are, like, the whole point of one of the points of us being lesbians is that we're different. We have different outlooks on life. We have different talents.
I feel like with a lot of marginalized groups, the biggest downfalls to them is simply when usually outside groups create division. A left and a right. The left doesn't accept the right doesn't accept the left, and then that divides all of us. Instead of being one powerful group, it just crumbles or divided. I think it's unfortunate that sexuality is tied to a political outlook. To begin with, that is no longer like, oh, Republicans don't want gay people to exist. Like, that's not a thing anymore. I think it's so unfortunate how politicized our entire community has become. I think.
Yeah, any community is going to be not politicized, but they're going to have their own political beliefs. I mean, you can't help it. Each side, you want to call them, they have their own agendas, they have their own things they're trying to push. That's why they're called conservative and liberal. It's because of their philosophies. Doesn't matter, gay, black, your profession, you're gonna have differences of opinions or what you believe to be the truth.
We're here calling ourselves conservative lesbians, but we're really, like, some of us aren't really conservatives. We're just non-leftists. And people, mainly the LGBT, whatever community, moved further and further left. I stayed where I was, and somehow I was the one that was ostracized.
Well, that's because what used to be modern
Right.
is now considered conservative. And
Is people think this way or be gay and think this way. So it's just really sad to see. And I feel like, our community has been used so much to push other things. Like we're being
100%.
used as a shield. So everyone.
Queers for Palestine? Really? Really? Go to Palestine as a queer person. See what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's funny people get behind these political movements about war in other countries and send money here, support this place. Just like Black Lives Matter, right? You don't know truthfully who's behind these movements, and it's easy to put a camera in a destitute area and say, oh look, this area needs help, these people need food, these people need water, this area needs funding and education, send money to my organization because I'm going to help do that. It's easy to say that and take the money and go buy a mansion, right? And nothing actually happens to the community. That's why it's important to think for yourself and analyze and actually understand the world. Like, is you sending $50 actually going to, wouldn't it be better, you would be better off actually buying food or water and getting in touch with an actual local individual in that community and sending it to them. That way you get it directly and you know where your money is going. Can't people just being taken advantage of constantly because of sympathy and compassion and empathy.
Somebody's gonna have to say next time.
I hope it's loud enough, by the way.
Conservatism itself means that you like the things that are going now, and that traditionally it's going good for you, for us. I personally disagree with that because of the things that I have been through. The discrimination from everyone, doesn't matter whether they're left or right or not part of the community, is not working for us. It's not working for me at
Can I
least.
ask you a question? Sorry, I mean, interrupt.
Yeah, for sure.
You know how people on the left have redefined the word woman?
What do you mean by that?
A lot of people that identify on the far left, LGBT or not, have redefined the word woman to mean basically anything.
Yeah, I'm
So-
non-binary. I use they them
So,
pronouns.
yeah, so there you go. Okay, so you have changed of the meaning or the whatever, right? Conservatism.
And that in itself is just, how are you a lesbian if you're if you're non-binary? Because a lesbian implies a woman who likes other women, a gay woman. If you're non-binary, woman nor man, the term lesbian wouldn't apply to you. Neither would homosexual, because you're neither sex. That just lets you know the delusion is off the charts. Anyway.
Is just the opposite of leftism at this point, as far as I'm concerned. So I just want to make sure that
So
that is
what are you
known.
saying the opposite of leftism? Could you?
Because the new age conservatives are really old age libertarians, or like moderates, or just classic liberals for the most part. So I just to make sure like we're on the same page a little bit. you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. So what I'm saying is that because we are growing, if you want to include more people, because technically the lesbian flag has changed to an orange stripe for people, non-men, such as myself. I still identify.
Okay, two things. She said the lesbian flag, and then she's a non-man. Right? First off, only nations has flags, right? Why do you need a flag for a sexuality? That's incredible. Like, what does that represent? Right? And then, you know, what is that? Oh, damn. What is that doing for you? Okay, we back on the video. What is that? Making sure this live stream thing is doing what it needs to. But, alright, damn, fucking up. Why do you need a flag? Right? Where are you marching to? Right? What's your uniform? These are things we should be thinking about. Because they're subtle inches towards something. They're adding more letters, flag, parades, education. This is truly alarming.
I'm a lesbian, I'm still here.
And I should have identified as a lesbian.
Because I'm a non-man.
Exactly. And then, because I'm a non-man. How are you a non-man? If you're a non-man, it's like, doesn't that just mean woman? It's like all this, there's so much double speak in this community. There's so much gray area. And you have to, like, weed around things and never really make a statement, except that, you know, there's no rules to anything. There's no boundaries, restrictions, and because I'm a non-man. She said the exact same thing. How do you identify as lesbian if you're not a woman? Because I'm a non-man. And that was actually a logical response to her, which is also incredible.
Because
That's a terrible definition. You're absolutely.
Mine as well.
So I believe in including everyone. It doesn't matter what other people go by. I think that being left and having this conversation go to left means that we don't care anymore. Everyone can be a part of the community, no matter who you are. Labels don't matter as much.
See, she is tweaking. If labels don't matter, then what's the point? How you're on this platform because you're of a label, because you're a liberal lesbian, but you don't care about labels. So, and then you're a non-man.
You know, they did back then because it was only the LGB. When we're moving towards the left, we're moving towards the, you know, the future, including.
How many letters they added?
Sometimes gatekeeping is a good thing, though. Yeah. And sometimes segregation is a good thing.
Why?
Well, why?
Now, this is a logical woman. You know, for the most part. As much as they can be.
You're saying that, like, you guys are opening, accepting more, everything like that. So where's the line then? Because then we have straight people. So then why have a community if there's everybody's in a community?
If you self-identify in the community, then we're all there for each other. If you're straight and you identify as straight, you are not part of the community. I do not identify as straight. I identify as a non-binary lesbian because the lesbian community has accepted me. Because I don't feel comfortable in my gender identity. Because growing up, I didn't feel, accepted.
So you're only there because they accepted you, not because that's how you actually feel.
In the lesbian community. So now that we're moving left and we're accepting more people into it, I'm finally accepted in the community. People, actually do accept non-binary lesbians.
If you don't identify as a woman, and a lesbian is a woman who loves another woman, then why would you not identify as queer? And yes, we're going to labels here, but like genuine curiosity, I'm trying to understand. Because if a lesbian is no longer a woman who's sexually attracted to another woman, then a lesbian can be
anything. Which is literally what's happening in the world
That's
right
the
now.
problem.
Like straight up
That's the
dudes that are not trans women, straight up dudes going on lesbian dating apps and calling us transphobic and
I think there's a bit of a gray area there. If I'm sorry to.
If you doing that, you need to chill out. Leave them lesbians alone. Why are you in the apps? You in?
Interrupt, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm under the impression that with non-binary lesbians there's a bit of a gray area because you can often have a very similar experience than a woman who is a lesbian being non-binary because if you
because we're all female.
well, if you're assigned female at birth and you date women and before you knew you were non-binary, you were all, would imagine you were often in lesbian spaces and that's what you identified with. So why should you be excluded
Duh.
from that community just because now you know you are non-binary, for example?
I feel like colloquially speaking, like now we define lesbian as being like non-men.
It's like you just answered your own question. If you don't identify as a woman, lesbian wouldn't apply to you because it's a woman who likes a woman.
Like non-men.
I think
Like, and these people are truly lost. And it's astounding that, you can live your whole life and no one be brave enough to, or rather care enough about you to tell you the truth. To tell you, like, hey, that doesn't make sense, what you just said. You're a non-man. How are you a lesbian? That's how you know someone cares about you and they love you and they're willing to hurt your feelings to administer the truth.
very small subset of people that find that.
And there's
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
people
that I
that
think.
oh yeah, there's
No,
different
different
people who have,
circles.
yeah, absolutely. And I think also like language is always conformed around people and communities. Like being trans and being non-binary is not a new thing. This has existed in like pre-modern society. It's not new. It's always existed, and language is always conformed around people. Like we don't make things up when people start identifying as them. Like we conform language to fit identity, and like it's always.
No, that's actually exactly what happened. Or rewind it.
All the way.
People start identifying as them, like it's always conformed around people. Like we don't make things up when people start identifying as them. Like we conform language to fit.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. They added more letters. Yeah, we made those up, and then people say, yeah, I'm that. It's not. I mean, yeah, people have always mutilated their bodies and done weird things. That doesn't mean it was normal to somehow suggest that, yeah, people cut off their noses and got lipo and shaved down their genitals, and so it was always kosher in society is absolutely asinine.
And like it's always been that way.
Although I do think people make up words.
That's also
I'm
true.
sorry.
No, that's
They
also
do.
true.
There's
There's a hundred
a
genders now.
million genders that people have literally just made up. It did not
Frog,
exist.
frog, self.
What does it affect you? Other people identify?
I don't. I don't care. I'm
They
just saying.
self-identify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Self-identify as a potato.
I feel like a very small group has become the example.
Yeah, she's funny.
There's a small group of left and there's a small group of right that are louder than everybody else, and then everybody else is being forgotten.
Absolutely.
I think one thing that separated us is that I think you often, and I'm not trying to just point out, but since I am the friend of yours, that I can no longer support you because you don't support me, right? If you, I'm explaining, right? Because I believe that when you use your voice, you were coming from a place of privilege without realizing that the things that you were sharing were negatively attacking me and my lifestyle. You are able to have privilege because you don't show up like I show up. You're not a woman of color. You're not masculine. So it's easy for you to say, oh yeah, this is okay, but you're not realizing that you're forgetting me and my existence and what I might need. We're under attack. LGBTQIA.
Yeah. See, this is the victim mentality. She said we're under attack. she's she's sitting on an episode of Jubilee, but she's under attack. You live in America. I don't know where Jubilee is. I presume somewhere in LA. But how are you under attack? Notice such strong language, such conviction. She actually believes it because she's a woman of color and she's masculine. No, you're confused and you've been suckered into believing these polluted lies and propaganda about a number of things, and the worst being that you're a victim and you're under attack in America. And this episode probably led to other financial gain and fame and small scale of clout. How are you, if you were under attack, how do you even get on the episode? It's like they talk without hindsight.
Is under attack. We have 650 plus anti-LGBTQ bills attacking our existence. A lot of y'all talk about, it's mostly attacking trans kids, which we all should be pissed. If anybody's attacking our kids, we should all be pissed. But 350 plus attacking the LGB, which y'all want to just emphasize and say everybody else doesn't count. It's this, but we are all being attacked. And so for you to not see that is privilege. And I think that I just really need you to understand that.
And we can surmise by attack she means they're passing bills. For example, in Texas, the heartbeat bill to protect unborn babies in the womb up to 6 weeks, because that's when, between 4 and 6 weeks, that's when the heartbeat is said to be developed. And so they banned abortion during that time. You can't get it past 6 weeks because it has a heartbeat. And that's important because we have to, in anything, you have to draw the line somewhere, right? If you want to lose weight, you have to draw the line somewhere with how much chocolate you eat, how much pizza, how much cardio you do, right? How much sleep you get. You have to set boundaries clear and concise and succinct. You have to draw the line somewhere, right? And for example, a lot of liberals there is no line with many things, but especially abortion. And she would probably say, you know, young pregnant mothers are being attacked because they're passing legislation to protect unborn babies. So you see how they conflate strong language to try and deflect and at the same time inflict a feeling of sympathy and empathy upon the listener. Is truly maniacal and drastically limiting as far as your outlook on life. You know, life is good.
Yeah, absolutely. What laws are affecting lesbians?
So you want this one or should I?
In Florida right now, if there's a lesbian couple, because there's a lesbian couple that are going through this right now. Right now, if somebody calls the cops on a lesbian couple saying that they're being inappropriate, they could face jail time. Just for someone calling them and having to go through.
Children.
Oh, that's true.
totally
If
That is-
that is, then you text me, because I'll go to the
I've never
It
heard
is
of that,
true.
and there's not many. I would love to hear all these laws that are affecting me. As I
That was the worst explanation. If somebody calls the cops on a lesbian couple and says they're being inappropriate. Such general and vague language, and it's probably not even close to what the law or piece of legislation actually is, because these people don't actually do research.
am an American and I have every right as everybody else.
I know, but you show up differently than I do.
How?
But you
But what-
presenting
you're
Ashland has no
Wait,
effect on that.
So since you
And being black.
I am also black. So what? I'm black and Hispanic. So what?
Me too.
What laws are different for you? I would like to-
Okay, well, if you want to talk afterward, I got you.
Okay.
I am on the board of Land Illegal. We're fighting these 650 plus anti-LGBTQ bills. I have a list for you. Also, there's so many documentaries. The thing is, I think what you want to just
So many documentaries, and you're on the board of whatever, but you can't name. There's 650 plus, but you can't name out one. Let's see what the next prompt is.
with me and
A trans woman.
wow.
Yeah, you're surprised, right? See, a lot of people don't know. I mean, does she have a vagina? I don't like,
That's a general preference.
that's disgusting to say general preference. Please don't call it general preference. It's a sexual orientation.
Exactly. So when
I don't
you're saying-
prefer vagina. I don't like.
So when you're saying sexual orientations, you are referring to who you are attracted to.
Correct.
When you are saying that you do not have a preference for that genital portion, that is labeled as genital preference.
That's your label. That's not my label.
Sorry, would you
Got him.
mind if I finish? Sorry.
But she don't believe in labels.
So
Yes.
trans women with the question
Or this non-man doesn't believe in labels.
is that's gender. It doesn't matter whether they've gone through their procedures or not. If we're dating a trans woman, it shouldn't matter whether they have a vagina or a penis or anything.
So I should like convince myself that I have to be attracted to somebody's genitals. If I'm not,
I personally would date a trans woman, but I don't think it's transphobic not to want to. And because that doesn't define whether that trans woman is a woman or not, just someone else's preference. That trans women are women regardless of where they are at in their transition. I 100% believe that. But whether or not someone is attracted to them because of that.
And it's strange that if they're, it's like, if they're women, Why do you have to add the trans? Like, why not just say what they are?
That doesn't affect who they are. And for me personally, I am more attracted to the female energy, like presentation and being. For me, it's more about that than what they have. How you
So
feel
I
about
have no issue with intersex individuals. Again, we're going back to our orientation and our preference. If I was attracted to someone who might be intersex, that's great. That's cool. Yeah. I'm fine. Or maybe I've just never experienced someone like that before, and that's fine too. They're not invalid as humans. They're not invalid in their identity, but
I don't understand how a lesbian can be conservative.
And it all stepping forward. This should be interesting.
I think that was a huge question that I really did have going into this, because like I said earlier, conservatism itself is keeping things up the way that it is. Through the experiences that I have had, that my girlfriend has had, that we all have had, I don't like how it is right now. I would love to progress forward. Again, as a non-binary lesbian, only through the progression did I feel accepted, did I feel safe, like did I, that's how I found my girlfriend, stuff like that, moving forward and progressing forward.
Yeah, the right has famously been always against the LGBT community, and always, especially in the past, has always fought against equal marriage and everything. So it surprises me to see that there are gay people who identify as conservative. I think it's fine for people to have their political opinions that are not attached to their sexuality, of course. But at the same time, for me, it's hard to support.
I mean, nowadays it's really hard to separate the two, sexual orientation and your political alignment, just because, like I said before, each party, they more or less have lines. Conservatives, more conservative, and old school, traditional, you might say. That gay stuff ain't going. And liberals, they're more progressive, and things kind of evolve over time, and there's no real truth, actually. The only truth is continual change and updating and revising of culture, which is actually dangerous.
Party that has always been historically against us.
Like being conservative, like being Republican, they are also two separate things. And like being conservative, like truly is about staying where you are, or like keeping things similar. Whereas like progressives like want to progress and like move things forward. And like people are Republican for all kinds of reasons. But I think that it is interesting that people can be in the queer community.
One sec, let me see if this is. Okay.
And not be interested in progress and change, like especially as like so many conservatives have been so anti-LGBT for a very long time.
Yeah, I agree. I say the same. I think there's a difference between moderate and conservative, and just wanting to live your life a certain way. Because I know a lot of, I would say, more moderate lesbians that don't want to partake in the prides and do things like that. They just want to live their life with their wife and their kids, and that's very different, because nowadays conservative is combined now with Republican in my eyes. And so when you're a Republican lesbian, you're against our community moving forward and progressing, and you're also aligning with the oppressor.
The oppressor. Black people always got an oppressor. But also take note when she says they're stopping us from moving forward. Now, what she means by that is becoming more liberal, becoming more loose in the streets and in public, and just in general in society, and allowing more loose and liberal laws to regulate and populate, which is also dangerous. This is a very lost individual.
And so that's why I have a hard time understanding queers being conservative or slash Republican, because you're aligning with the oppressor and not going against change in the positive direction for our community.
For sure, yeah. I get the impression that just because they don't agree with certain parts of our community or certain parts of the left, then they go all the way to the other end of it, when really that is not really necessary, because you don't have to suddenly say,
But like not rid of some people.
Most, I'm gonna say queer in general, the community don't have protections in certain areas, like where you live. You can't adopt, or you can get fired on the basis of
Your sexuality, the things are in place to protect that, but if it's still happening often, then that's why we need to progress to make our life and our lifestyle. LA, Artie's there and been a groomer there for 11 years, and still, and other owners still face discrimination almost every single time I go there, because there's discrimination within our community. And so now I'm as a commissioner, I'm working on that, because we have to fight it even in this city that everyone thinks.
And understand that discrimination is not inherently a negative thing. This is a term that has been twisted and turned into a negative thing, mostly by the civil rights movement, but that's another topic. Discrimination is simply choosing something over something else. You see, we always exercise discrimination. If you walk into a supermarket and you choose this cheese over that, you're discriminating against the other cheese, technically speaking, which isn't a bad thing. You just don't prefer the other cheese. And if you don't want someone walking into your home or place of business or your school, not a bad thing.
That everyone's accepted. So can you imagine that in LA and West Hollywood, if that's going on, how it can be in other cities and towns and states for people
From being discriminated, like people are that way. There's always going to be people who are racist or transphobic going forward. What laws, I guess, what rights do we not have? We can adopt.
well, they're
Right, that too. You can never, like, this idea of trying to like force everyone to accept this lifestyle is the same thing they claim the Christians are doing, or any religious zealot group. Right? It's like you have a flag, you have parades. It's like aren't we? You're well integrated. Your presence is well known.
many countries where just being gay is
Well, that I
punishable
understand.
by
Right.
death.
In
death
other
penalty.
countries, of course. I was just referring to the United States. But yeah, I totally agree on that. Other countries, absolutely. They need to do something about that. But here, I just don't. Any lesbian couple can get married, have a kid, adopt a kid, have all
No,
of
but I'm saying that because you said, why do you still need to move forward? Why do you still need to progress? And I think it's because developed countries are leading the way in general for the whole
Well,
LGBT
acceptance has gone
community.
down now.
Thinking about when you say people are always going to be, transphobic, homophobic, that's why we want to progress, because
Of course.
hopefully one day, and even if it is 300 years from now, we don't want that to happen.
Of course.
So-
So U.S. why is acceptance going down?
Yeah.
Acceptance is going down. It's statistically, the accepted straight people and anyone is lowering. Why is that? We're so progressive. Why is it lowering? Because we're going too far over. We are now attacking children's and women's spaces.
I'm gonna jump in right here, because we're not.
Exactly. Excellent point. You're tipping the scale into literal insanity. Children in women's spaces. And mind you, these liberal individuals They don't believe in labels and boundaries and laws saying, hey, we want to draw the line here. Like, you people can't go to libraries and read about your lifestyle. No. That's not what we want children to learn about. Out of all the topics in the world, during their developing years, they don't need this confusing and convoluted, ridiculous education about these letters you made up.
Just looking at social issues when we're talking about conservatism versus leftism or right versus left. Yeah, social issues are absolutely a part of it. But then we're also looking at, okay, how are we taxed? How is the government spending our money? How much of our tax dollars are going overseas? How are our schools being run? How are our children being taken care of? Do you have a nice library in your town that you can visit? All of that can be traced back to your political leaning. And I think it's very important to understand my sexuality has nothing to do with the way I think the government should spend our taxes.
I can understand like a lesbian being a Republican. I can understand like a lesbian like voting for a Republican. Like if that's your perspective, I'm like on whatever else, and maybe that's, you know, it's your own prerogative who you want to vote for. It's not like we have whatever all these choices.
And yeah, just because you're lesbian doesn't mean you would vote for necessarily a liberal or Democratic Party. You know, that doesn't really have anything to do with how it affects you economically, right? At a job, gas prices, there's nothing to do with your sexuality. So it makes sense it wouldn't necessarily impact your political decision, but fundamentally, yeah, conservative, Republican, they're more on the traditional end.
But I think that what we're talking about, like being progressive versus being conservative, literally you want progress or you want to conserve the past.
What needs to be progressed?
Like acceptance. Like
Well, no,
prejudice.
but no law is going to change that. Whether you're Republican or liberal, that's not going to, law is not going to change that.
Social movements and social issues across the board. We think about the acceptance of Black people, of gay people, like, and we think about how progressive movements have made us more comfortable in our identities in social spaces.
Okay, but there are movements. That has nothing to do.
See, that's totally different. She said the acceptance of Black people. Not we, but people who were slaves, they were released from slavery, right? They didn't, I mean, there wasn't any acceptance nor denial. They had to integrate and assimilate into American society and culture. It wasn't, no one said, hey, we accept you. No, they got released from slavery and they started kicking from there. That's why you have to be careful and really dissect this, because again, certain characters will conflate knowledge and words to say something and mean something that is not really true. So you have to remain sharp in your thinking, or you will be taken advantage of.
Politics.
Can I give you an example of the racial divide in this country, right? Laws were put into place so African Americans can vote and be equal humans, right? And do you not think that those protections put in place allowed African Americans to be more accepted as time went on?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
You say no?
No,
They all tweaking. What?
I'm process.
African Americans to be
Maybe.
protections put in place.
Maybe I.
for
Hold
humans,
on.
right? And do you not think that those protections put in place allowed African Americans to be more accepted?
So
right?
wait.
That has nothing to do with politics.
Can I give you an example of the racial divide in this country, right? Laws were put into place so African Americans can vote and be
Laws were put into place so African Americans can vote and be equal.
Or humans, right?
And be equal humans.
And do you not think that those protections put in place allowed African Americans to be more accepted?
So because they got to vote, so comparing it to women, so because women got to vote and be more equal, like what does that mean? Be more equal. But because they got to vote and be more equal, she said those protections that were put in place helped them to be more accepted
As time went on?
as time went on.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Like I'm with Shorty on the left. Like what is like what?
You say no?
No, I'm processing it.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think
I'm
you're
like
right.
thinking.
I
Did
don't,
she just agree with
completely agree though. I think
right? But first she said yeah.
I'm like thinking.
absolutely yes.
You say no?
Yes,
No, I'm
and she was so
processing it.
sure.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
you're
like
right.
thinking.
I don't completely agree though. I think saying
There's still
that
racist people today, so that
right.
didn't fix it.
Yeah.
It went
Come
down.
for us. Yeah, it normalized and brought people together, and not to see the racial divide as in humanity, or you're not a human because you're African American. That changed. So what we're asking is for equality, so that us as humans are able to.
This is another thing that's been twisted as well. The concept of slavery. It's not that they didn't see the slaves as human. Obviously, they were human. They weren't dolphins or owls, right? Obviously, they were humans, but they were extreme servants. And it's been dramatized as movies and television shows are, and they've been retold and twisted in order to give it a certain appeal. Not only that, to instill a victim mentality in individuals such as this dread-headed, non-male looking person. And due to that, right, there's been assumptions made like, oh, look how we were treated. Did you see that movie? Notice she mentioned documentaries earlier, right? That's not research. Watching a documentary isn't research. And if you're actually in the field, you would be able to come up with a clear, concise example of what you're trying to demonstrate. And she couldn't. So that shows, her lack of actual expertise in what she's trying to articulate. And like I said, due to that, there's been assumptions made that slavery was just this hell on earth, and it was this terrible time, and women were being raped, and the men were being brutalized, and yada yada yada. Again, pulling at your heartstrings and trying to get sympathy. They're trying to suck the sympathy out of you. In terms of dollars.
Just like everyone else, and that there's a equal ground here, like just respect, and that's what I'm saying is it's very necessary to put these protections in place so we can live like everyone else.
Now, yeah, respect is a different thing. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, if certain people just got out of a period of servitude, yeah, it makes sense that you would see them as less valuable members of society for sure, just starting out, yeah, it would make sense that, why not spraying with a hose or sick a dog on them. Just 2 years ago, you were my slave. That's just something that comes along with time and culture, and it's not something you can do with legislation. It's not something you can force with laws and bills and amendments. Let's get back.
Do live like everybody else. There's no, I don't.
You being able to say that is privilege. No, I'm not trying to hurt you. It is.
People are homophobic to me too, but it doesn't affect my life. I don't let that.
Yeah,
I didn't say that.
It's a privilege to not understand other
But
people's
how do you know I don't
lived experience.
understand?
Because you're asking me the question.
Well, yours is different than hers, and hers, right? So how can you tell me I'm privileged? How can you
feel safe?
How can you tell me I'm privileged?
I live
when
in Florida.
everyone
I
has
feel very safe.
You show up differently than I do.
Very
Oh,
I show up.
Very differently than I do.
There's more Hispanic people in Florida than there probably are in California.
What is that? Mean?
That's what you're talking about. Is that not what you're talking about? You're talking about
You can walk
racial
down the street in Florida and be cool.
And because I'm femme, because I'm not like 100% femme, like where's
I think
my
that we
line?
should take a trip to Florida and see what it's really like.
Yeah.
What you hear and
Oh,
what
I
you
go to
experience
Florida all the
is
time,
different.
but
Okay, then is anything
fine.
ever happened in Florida?
Those are very protected spaces that I'm in. And
Oh,
then when I do travel around, yes, I've gotten death threats. I've had to shut down events that I've done. I've had, people name me by telling me to pick out a coffin.
That's obviously not okay.
But then those people are in
obviously
power,
not
is what we're kind of sorry to cut you off. But those people are in power now.
Yeah.
Those people are deciding the future of our country, and that. No, those people that are hateful, that are homophobic, that are transphobic, unfortunately, those people are becoming in power. We're not saying that.
All the buzzwords, all the trigger words that mean nothing, because you're transphobic. You're transphobic. You don't want this trans individual reading a book to your kids in the library on a Saturday afternoon.
These exact laws need to be put into place. We're saying to
100% of the conservative beliefs. I might even hold more liberal views on certain individual topics than maybe even some of you. It's simply
Pride should be taught in classrooms.
Whoa.
Join our Melbourne Patreon to watch this exclusive prompt.
And isn't it curious that scripture says pride goeth before the fall, and the whole movement is about pride? Just a thought.
Lesbians can use he, him
Oh, damn.
pronouns.
I wanted to see that one. Again, why would you use... Okay, let's see what they say.
I think the reason why I stepped forward is because of the idea that pronouns equal gender. I think that's also why I kind of hesitated as well, because when you're saying use he, him pronouns, at first everyone assumes it's their gender, sexual orientation, everything. I think it goes back to my belief that pronouns do not equal your gender.
I know non-binary lesbians who go by any pronouns, and I think there's, I think that there's maybe you need more non-binary lesbians who use they them pronouns or use.
What is a non-binary lesbian? What is an NBL?
He they pronouns, but I think that anyone who's non-binary can use any pronouns and be defined as a lesbian.
Thinking of you, and thinking of my non-binary friends that
It doesn't make sense.
use all pronouns, and so that's when I realized that I agree.
I didn't step forward with the rest of my team just because my first just because my first thought was of when
She said my team.
straight men call themselves lesbians. And I always thought that was so disrespectful and cringy, and that was my first thought. That's why I was like, oh no, straight binary pronouns don't equal gender was the point. Yeah. So
I feel you. I think to me it's a bigger conversation than just somebody's identity. If we're in this community trying to make the world understand us more and trying to actually be progressive, as you guys call it, why are we also being more confusing? The only thing that winds up doing is making yourself feel better.
Yeah, but I think what you're saying with that is you feel, validity within yourself. It doesn't matter about what other people think, what the outside community thinks. I think we should just be accepted as everyone, no matter what.
Validity.
So, even though we have different beliefs, we're still going to respect each other and understand that even though our identity, we feel validity within it, doesn't matter what other people think.
And I love that. I think that's absolutely the best way to go. I think it's strength within yourself and actual self-love and you can self-express the way you want. To let other people make you feel invalidated is the worst thing you can do.
The reason why I didn't step forward, and I actually struggle with this one, because I'm all about freedom of speech. You are free to say whatever you want, to use whatever pronouns you want, to present how you want. I don't care. And so on one hand, yeah, a lesbian can use whatever pronouns they want because that's their right. That is protected in our Constitution as your freedom of speech. But on the other hand, I am not obligated to validate that, and I'm not, in my opinion, a lesbian is a woman who loves another woman. I believe what I believe is a woman. Maybe not everyone here agrees what a woman is, but I believe that. So if I say a lesbian is a female or a woman who loves another female woman, then they're probably going by she, her pronouns, right? But
It's like the level of delusion you have to convince yourself of to say that you're neither gender and yet you feel like one of them, and so you want to dress and show up as one of them. It's just so confused. They're so confused. You can tell. Look at this one. This terrible shirt.
and they also have their freedom of speech. So it's very middle, a little bit muddy for me on this one.
You can go by whatever you want. It shouldn't matter to other people what you go by. If you are a lesbian, then you are a lesbian. And me as a lesbian, I'm going to support you. If you realize that you're not a lesbian anymore, it's fluid. I'm going to support you no matter what pronouns you go by. Because I have been in that case where...
Exactly, and that's why... Damn. Just say it's important to tell people the truth. And that's why you can't trust a lot of women with advice and harsh truth, because they'll try to spare your feelings and not be confrontational, and they'll tell you more or less what you want to hear. You don't want to be you're not lesbian? Oh, sure. And then the next week, oh, you're lesbian again? Oh, sure. That's like, there's not a second thought, like, is there something wrong with your mental health, or like, are you going through something? Are you, there's no actual talk. That's why people have to go to therapy and all these other things, because there's no actual progressive talk, spiritual and soul nurturing discussion between individuals, because we're all scared to tell each other the truth and ask the hard questions. You tell people, oh, check up on so-and-so, check up on this, but like, don't check up on me. Don't check up on me. Like, I don't need that, right? Like, if you're calling, like, actually check out, like, hey, how's your mental health? How's your finances? How's everything going professionally? How's your projects? How was your day? How are you? Like, how's work? Like, that's not it. It's so surface level, and just like it's just going through emotions. It's actually disgusting. Anyway, I forgot where I was.
I wasn't educated on what I could be. I've gone through everything under the sun.
All right, this fluidness. Right, and again, there's no discernment. There's no discipline. Everything can change at any moment, and there's just no truth in that. You can't sit someone down and say, hey, this isn't good for you. Why? Because this non-male doesn't really believe that, because everything is fluid.
I was a gender fluid lesbian at one point. I did use he, him pronouns at one point. But again, through my self-identity, I've discovered who I am. And I think by knocking down people's journey and discovery is exactly what saying people who use he, him pronouns cannot be a lesbian. Because in their own self-identity, they see themselves as getting to that journey. And they're going through things that we don't understand.
I think that we can both support, respect, and love individuals who are going through their journeys, but also be diligent to protect spaces. That's why we have TQIA+. You know what I'm saying? That is why our umbrella has expanded to be what it is, so that we can both protect our spaces, but also accept, love, and encourage and support individuals who are not quite sure what they are quite yet. And that's okay too. You can do both.
Do you feel like non-binary people are encroaching on lesbian spaces? Like, is that something that you feel like is a real social issue, or?
Depends on what side of the non-binary spectrum they're on, I think, as far as concerned.
What do you mean by side? Because non-binary itself means you do not have a binary. You are
But
not
you
on
still
either
but
side.
you still have a sex.
Make it make sense. Let's how about all of us together? The middle ground is let's make it make
Got him.
sense before we push everyone else to accept it.
Well, we always have work to do.
Yes.
Right, but
No matter what.
We all showed up.
Right.
We all showed up
we all
here.
showed up
We
here.
showed up.
It's not just like saying you're going to dismiss someone just because you don't understand. That's part of the work that we have to do.
But you guys
That's what I was
don't
trying to,
want to
especially
change.
with you earlier.
No. So you guys have to figure it out. We don't.
Right, and she makes a good point. She said, let's understand it ourselves before we try to make other people accept it. Like, there's a group of women here, right? They themselves don't even agree on what, and now it's backtrack. They themselves don't even agree on what a lesbian is, right? Let alone a woman, right? So how is the public, how are we as society to say, oh, we accept these people when they themselves don't even know who they are? It's ludicrous.
We want it to stay the same.
Right, but right
It's not our
now,
responsibility.
they're trying to undo everything that we did to have equality. And so
They're not taking away marriage. So
that's on the list.
it's okay.
It's on the
But
list.
like you said, we will talk about the bill.
Tweaking. Why she said that earlier? It's on the list. That's some political talk.
Just like interracial marriage is on the list.
There's no bill out there that is going to take away gay marriage.
But
She said, hold on, she said interracial
There's
marriage.
no bill out there that is going to take away gay marriage, right?
but I'm saying you not being able to understand that is
Like you said, we will talk about the bills after.
just like interracial
There's
marriage is on the list.
There's no bill out there that is.
Now, Shorty is such a victim. Interracial marriage. It's definitely not on the list. Like, what are you talking about? It's definitely not on the list.
But I'm saying you not being able to understand that is privilege, and that's why I was
I
trying to
understand it. I'm very versed in
But
laws and
to
bills. It's
reverse
not privileged.
marriage equality, to reverse interracial marriage
Mm-hmm.
protection is on their list
Sure. Okay.
that they would like to undo.
Okay.
I think we
So
can all
that's
agree that
scary.
it's wrong. Yeah.
Like, whose list? She's obviously lying and doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, whose list? It's like, who does interracial marriage hurt, really? And who does that benefit? Why would they reverse it? And as if that's something they've still been mulling over, like, oh, we still gotta get rid of this and keep that on the list, you know, add on LGBTQ alphabet people issues, right? Add that on.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody,
That's
it's
why.
not but the thing is, that's not happening. That's not actually happening.
Right.
Okay, so certain things like abolishing affirmative action is a part of that process. So just because you
Which should be abolished, absolutely.
weren't affected by it doesn't mean
It's
they're
not
affected by
about me. I don't care what. I don't know why it's.
But
all
that's why I'm trying to get you to
me and
see.
how I affect it.
It's
I'm not
not
a feelings person. I don't like laws change and all that based on.
I'm not.
I'm a facts
I'm a logical person too, but you don't understand. What you're
I
not
do
understanding
understand.
is
Not
being
at
able
all.
to have your frame of mind is a privilege. Period.
You can have the free mind too.
You're not thinking about anybody else that does not have the
You
same
don't
privilege,
know
that can
that.
walk like you walk, that has access like you have access.
How do you know
Not
that?
everybody knows.
How do you know
Because
that?
of the way you
don't
think
know
and
what
the
I
way you're
do.
talking.
You don't know anything about me.
I don't have to. It's the way
Okay,
you're
so
speaking
you
and your
can
way
call
that you're
me
able
critical.
to not
You can put a label on me when you
include
know
somebody
nothing
else's
about me.
experience.
Yeah, and this is a good point. And she is showing a mindset worth highlighting. You see, a lot of black folks will say this person's privilege, that person's privilege, but it's all an assumption. You don't know what that person has been through, what they've overcome and achieved and accomplished, and the circumstances they were born into. You see, victims assume a lot. When you're a victim, you assume a lot. First thing is that the world is out to get you, when the only thing you need to heal yourself from is your own sick mindset. You're a victim. This woman is a victim. And all these philosophies about life she has is extremely limiting. How can you develop authentic relationships with someone if you assume based on what they're saying and their thoughts that is, and more so than that, simply because they're challenging you, or how is this population under attack? You know, what laws are different for this population than any other, right? And then you say, oh, well, you're privileged to even think like that. You haven't seen the list? It's just she's a victim, and there's a million excuses that she has for her shortcomings, when really it's the only thing is her mindset and her outlook on life. When a student is ready, the master will appear. She hasn't progressed in her thinking to the point where it's matured, to where she's realized no one's coming to save her. There's no law or mayor or piece of legislation that's going to enable you to compete in the world in any degree or dimension, financially, physically. There's no amendment that can be made that's gonna allow you to suddenly be on level playing field with people with higher education, higher discipline, and more business acumen, more connects, more stronger family culture. That's not the way. This is not the way. I want to let you know this is not the way.
I use everybody's experience. I just said that multiple
Absolutely
times.
not. When you
You're
think
thinking
of
about
ways-
yourself and your experience. That's
Exactly, I have
That's
to. I
privilege.
speak for.
Right, and that's the funny thing. She's the one actually being selfish.
A huge
So
part
do
of our
I.
community.
So do I.
Okay.
So do
I
I.
don't think so when you're trying to say that we have enough protections and enough equality where we are.
I just said
No, you're
what,
not talking
I
about
said
you're
what
speaking
don't
for all
we
of
have?
us.
I'm asking what don't we have?
Do you think that we do not deserve all the same rights as everyone else? And that we should not keep progressing to get that?
We have all the same rights as everyone else.
And that's privilege.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
But people not in the community also.
See, shorty, see. Notice she couldn't say not one thing. What don't they have? And she's in the same group. She's in the same population. And she's asking her, hey, what don't we have? And then in response, she just calls her privileged in lieu of an actual argument.
Have rights.
Trying to
But people not in the community
and to think that is privilege because not
Well, then tell
everybody
me
gets
what rights
to live the same
Tell
way
me
as
what
you.
rights we don't have. What laws that we don't have.
Girl, I'm gonna send you.
No, I
So
want to
much.
know.
No, say it
I
now.
want to
Say it now.
No,
If you're gonna
Say it now and say it proud.
sit here and tell us that we're missing rights, that we are not allowed to
What
exist,
do
no,
gay
so tell
men
us.
right?
Some families, first of all, marriages, gay marriages in certain states are not. They do not have the same benefits. I already shared that with you earlier about gay families being able to adopt. I already
That's
shared
also
that with you
straight
earlier.
families.
Okay, gay families not being able to be a part of churches. I said that. There's so many things.
But that also happens to straight people too.
Weak.
Certain straight people get married.
I said that. There's so
Look
shared
at
that with you
Straight
earlier.
families.
Okay, gay families not being able to be a part of churches. I said that. There's so many things.
But that,
Not being able to be a part of churches. That's not true. The church just kicked them out
that also happens.
because they don't allow that. Because they stand by the words in the scripture. So yeah, they kicked them out. That doesn't this is just it's true comedy. Shout out Jubilee.
Straight people too. Some certain straight people get married and they're not allowed to have certain benefits. That happens. That's not a gay specific thing. What rights are you able to get married in this country? Are you able to adopt
What
a child?
rights?
Are you able to do what you want to do and make content on the internet?
I will have.
And other people are
I'm
not,
not
but that's
gonna
not a community
I'm not going to
issue.
have the same journey as if I wanted to adopt me myself. I'm not going to have the same journey as a straight couple
Of
trying to
course
adopt.
not, but nobody is. That same straight person may not have the same journey as another straight person.
But they don't
Of
have all
course.
the same biases lined up
Exactly.
against them.
There's no law that you can't do it though. There's no law that you can do it.
If
What's
they're
the bias?
Right. She's spazzing on him. She talking too.
Protections in place when they cannot.
If people don't like it, okay, that's one thing. There's no law that's gonna
Girl,
change
you
it.
don't be listening.
Gay men.
Girl, you don't be listening. She's speaking facts. She don't need to listen. She was speaking facts. There's no actual law that's preventing anyone from doing anything within the law. It's like individual bias is another thing. And again, which is a good thing. You'll notice in certain cultures that are the strongest in America or in the world, across the world, they have the highest level of discrimination, right? Japanese culture, Jewish culture, right? Arab culture, Muslim culture. Yes, they discriminate, and that's so they can keep their circle tight. No new friends. No new friends. No, 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 no. That's because they don't allow infiltrators and people to seep in and corrupt their organization from the inside. That wouldn't be smart or beneficial. Gay
Are
men.
more socially accepted than lesbians.
I don't even know about that one. Actually, no, I disagree. Lesbians are definitely more accepted.
So I definitely agree with this. First off, there's hardly any spaces for lesbian only. Welcome.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm happy.
I thought of something.
Also, when you see two gay men out in the street holding hands, kissing, there's not a woman that's going to be like, ooh, I'm going to get in between that and I'm going to, but when it's a lesbian, that's what men do to us. So, no, that is less socially acceptable. If anything, a woman's like, oh, a gay man, let's be best friends. Let me meet your partner. Where guys are like, I want to be your friend for ulterior motives.
So how does that mean you're less socially accepted? Just because men want to sleep with women.
Back to the feminization.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's what we face. So that's a social in society. Also, with just spaces, you heard there's like, at least where I'm from, there's like 10 bars on the street. They're all gay for.
See, and now she's talking nonsense. For the last prompt, she was actually speaking somewhat intelligently, and that's why it's important to stay sharp. Because one moment, someone might be speaking something totally logical, and then the next they have this extremely skewed opinion. And notice the other lost girl
Gay bars. At least where I'm
right
from,
there
there's
is
like 10
sitting.
bars on the street. They're all gay.
Is sitting right with her, which would allude to her. I mean, and then, like I said, they're women, so they're gonna be correct to a degree, right? Because, if you're sitting down with this one over here, you sit down with this one, you got some thinking to do.
It's like, I don't know. It's just, yeah.
And
Little bar that's like lesbian only. It's like, you can go to, but there's one small little bar that's like lesbian only. It's like, I don't know. It's just.
So because there's one lesbian bar as opposed to 10 gay bars, lesbians are less socially acceptable. Again, delusion and confusion.
Yeah. I'm trying to hear you guys go.
I agree with what you just said.
I think it's interesting, and the thought that I had
She like her now.
when I was back there is that lesbians are more accepted, in my experience, by people that are not on the left, and gay men are more accepted by people that are on the left. And I think it has to do with the whole reversal of, I'm trying to think of the word, the whole reversal of, can't think of the word, give me a minute. Go to somebody else, it'll come to me, give me a minute, because I was trying to think of how to say it over there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think, going away from politics and, going away from liberal and conservative ideas, lesbians are fetishized. They are, their rights are not being as spoken about as gay men. Because yes, gay men have had it harder in the past. I will say that. Gay men have gone through a lot worse than the lesbian community has. But because of that reason, we've progressed so much in the gay community, for gay men. The progression for lesbians haven't quite gotten there. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is get to that point where we can have the same progressions that gay men did have.
I think that's a fantastic point. And I was going to say feminism, like,
Oh yeah.
and I think it says a lot that you call yourself a non-man. And I don't think I've ever met a man that called himself a non-woman. And I think that's a really important thing to note that's going on.
Yeah, it's important to know because it's freaking weird. Why would you have to Why would I call myself a non-woman?
Side of the aisle with lesbians, but not with gay men. And I think that, to me, it just shows that there's a lot of misogyny still
Misogyny. It's goofy.
on coming from the left, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's actually a
I
good
think for me, as a human, as an individual, I feel like everyone has, especially in our community, the LGBTQIA plus community, has had experiences and like negative experiences and discriminations, all of that. But with me as part of what I do for a living, being in the political space, I see that specifically cis white gay male have it a lot easier than everyone else, as far as ownership, career, finances, access.
In America.
Yeah, in general.
And cis is another term that was coined as a result and symptom of this insane movement. And yeah, I mean, the white man, it makes sense for him to be on top from an economic standpoint and finances. Yeah, he's had a head start not only in America, starting it, founding its system and principles. Obviously they're gonna be ahead in that sense, but like the woman mentioned before, there's no laws or nothing stopping anyone from getting the same type of education, building themselves up and advancing professionally. You have to stop this narrative, this victim narrative.
And that's what I see, and that's what I was talking about earlier with the things that I'm fighting for space, because we don't have that. You mentioned a small bar.
Yeah.
We have that.
But that's where I'm coming from as well, where I say it's important for lesbians to have their own spaces and to know what a woman is and to know what a lesbian is, because we have so few of those spaces already, and to open it up to everybody, that everybody's queer now. Where's my community?
Right. And as a person that tries
See, that was a good point.
to create space for people, I often have to fight battles of them wanting to give us nights that are like the off nights, not the popular nights, because they think us as lesbians don't make enough money to for that space for that night, and are oftentimes I'm finding where it's
a very gray area question. I think in media, like movies and TV shows, men definitely have it better. There's a lot more gay male movies, whereas I just had this conversation with my girlfriend. All the very few lesbian movies that there are, they usually end up being very sad, and either they break up or one dies, or they go back.
Yes,
and they're all depressing, and there's
maybe y'all gotta make the movies.
Yeah, there's no happy ending. But like lesbians in public spaces, I feel have it better because we're kind of very masculine forward. Gay men are not very, for the most part, seen in this.
This is another thing too. Like, don't major in the minors. Why does it matter? Take the Little Mermaid, for example. Why does it matter that the character is melanated? What does that do for the community as far as representation? Like, how is that online with Obama, per se? Not saying he was a good president, right? But the first black president, that's somewhat of an achievement. Half black president. Why is it important to be represented as a mermaid as a people? As a human being, not as a race of mermaids, right? Why we have to ask ourselves at a certain point, why do we value certain things? Why do we fight for certain things? Certain things, not all things are worth fighting for. And that's discrimination and discernment.
very masculine. So they tend to get bullied more if they're, even if they're
Which
not.
is also a misogyny thing.
Yeah, exactly. Even if they're not gay, if you're just a more effeminate man, it's gonna be a harder time. Whereas I've always dressed very masculine. This is probably my most feminine outfit I have, and it's fine. I'm not really bullied for it. School, sure, but not in real life. So I think gay men have it better in TV and media, and lesbians have it better, from my point of view, in real life. Yeah.
And I hate to, say this again, but again, that is a privilege. I personally, being a masculine presented, I'm confident in myself, but I hate it. I hate having to go out and be spit on and be, yelled at from a window because I am masculine presenting. The other day, on my birthday, I was getting my free pancakes at IHOP, and this man came up to me, called me these words that I don't like. Me being masculine presenting has even made it worse for me. But I do understand what you were saying by that. Me personally, I don't have that sort of privilege, which I definitely
It's
wish
definitely
I did.
just my lived experience. I've never been bullied for it, but that doesn't make yours any less valid.
I'm sure.
Feminine, very maybe just not your typical what people perceive to be masculine. Maybe he doesn't align with that, and I think that he gets a lot tougher from other men than maybe we do from women. I've always been very masculine presenting. Nobody cares if a girl wears guys' clothing, but everyone has an issue whenever a guy puts on girls' clothing. And I think that if we just simplify it to that level, we can see where society.
See, it's not that everyone has an issue. It's that, if you're gonna live in a free country, you have to accept that, yeah, people can make fun of you. Ha ha ha. You look like a weirdo and a loser. Yeah, we're gonna laugh. Because we can do that. Grow up. Take a joke. Yeah, you look crazy. And yeah, it doesn't matter if a girl's in an oversized sweatshirt or hoodie or basketball shorts. But yeah, a dude in a spaghetti strap tank top, yeah, it looks weird. Looks very weird.
Society's acceptance is at, it's not an issue for me to cut my hair short. I used to wear a mohawk, wear dudes' clothing all the time. Nobody cares. But then you put a guy in the same situation where he's wearing maybe some leggings and a crop top, or, then all of a sudden people are looking at him a certain kind of way.
Oh, fuck. Damn, hold on. Alright, folks, I think,
They don't necessarily look at me, and maybe that's just my lived experience.
gonna end the stream. Thanks for checking out the video.